Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. So most beneficiaries of Social Security say that the most recent increase that they received was actually pretty underwhelming. It was a big disappointment. Plus, one woman just lost all of her Social Security benefits because of one rule that's pretty outdated, I would have to say. And not only that, but she was also billed $20,000 for this one mistake. We'll be covering that as well. But before we go ahead and dive into the main content of today's video, if you wouldn't mind helping out real quickly by just giving this video a like, that just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Plus, if you would like to receive up to $200 in free stock or $200 in free cash, in a pinned comment below, I will be leaving a link to Robinhood. All you have to do is once you click on that link is just sign up for a free account and then simply link your bank account. You do not even have to make an opening deposit. At that point in time, Robinhood will be sending you one free stock worth all the way up to $200. And if you'd rather just have the cash, all you have to do is once you receive the free stock is just sell for what it's worth and then transfer the cash value right back to your bank account. Okay, so diving right into our first story of today's video. Well, one woman that was before receiving Social Security benefits, SSI to be exact, it wasn't a large benefit every month, but it was something, and something is certainly better than nothing at all. Well, she recently was notified that her benefits were going to be coming to an end, and not only that, but she was also going to be owing the Social Security Administration $20,000. We're going to be covering this story right now, and this is because of one very outdated rule within the Social Security Administration. So, according to Newsweek, woman suddenly loses Social Security benefits, gets hit with a $20,000 bill. So a woman was shocked to find out that her Social Security benefits had been stripped away and she owed the Social Security Administration $20,000. It happened after Karen Williams decided to be responsible and get life insurance, she told NPR. Williams, a 63-year-old disabled woman who lives in Philadelphia, was scared of having her children take on the burden of paying for her funeral in case she died. And, ultimately that's just a very responsible act on her part. And little did she know that they had the asset limit rule where single individuals can only have $2,000, married couples just $3,000. And because she went out and did the responsible thing, and without knowing this rule with the Social Security Administration, she then lost her benefits. So the article goes on to say that under the Social Security Administration, SSI supports those living with disabilities in America with monthly checks. However, the program hasn't updated some of its rules for many years, including one that stipulates that you cannot have any assets over $2,000, and since this life insurance is considered an asset and that put her above the $2,000, well, guess what? She then, of course, ended up losing her benefits. So Williams' life insurance policy, which covered $10,000 in funeral expenses and had a cash value of $1,900, put her over the threshold. That's because combined, the $1,900 plus the $260 that Williams had in her checking account went above the asset limit, despite Williams having little financial resources to keep her afloat. To make matters more frustrating, the $2,000 asset limit has not changed since 1989. If the rule had been adjusted for inflation, Americans would still qualify for SSI unless they had more than $10,000 in assets. So can you believe that they actually made this rule way back then? $2,000 for single individuals and $3,000 for married couples, but they did not think to ever attach those numbers to inflation. So over all these decades, after over all these years, we have not had those two numbers updated. I don't know why they didn't think at the time to attach those numbers to inflation, like they thought those numbers back in the 80s would be exactly the same as, 40 years later. And today, it's still $2,000 for a couple, or $2,000 for individuals and $3,000 for couples. It's a number that absolutely needs to be updated. This should be something that's bipartisan. Actually, it is bipartisan. Right now, they do have a bill in Congress. They just need to pass it. Both Republicans and Democrats support it. Not sure why they haven't passed it. Just typical Congress fashion of really not trying to get anything done. They go on to say here that once the SSA realized that Williams was over the limit, she lost her benefits and was told she'd have to pay back the agency $20,385 in overpayments in just 30 days. She said, "You're telling me I owe you $20,000? I can't even pay my bills. Where am I going to live?" There are other SSI rules that recipients frequently complain about as well. And I mean, can you imagine that not only are you told that you're going to be losing your benefits, you're no longer going to be receiving the little amount that you're already getting because you went out and got this life insurance, but they're also telling you that you owe $20,000. They're telling you that you can't have more than $2,000 in assets, but they expect you to have $20,000 to pay them back. Just doesn't make any sense at all. So they go on to say that, for one, notice of overpayments often come months, if not years later, forcing former beneficiaries to fork over money they don't have while navigating a total or substantial loss in income. The asset limit also creates issues for recipients if they choose to get married, and many will lose benefits immediately upon walking down the aisle. This, plus situations like Williams has faced, has many pushing for higher asset limits. So we have one person saying that the asset limit needs to increase in 2024. I don't think $2,000 in a bank account should limit someone's ability to take out benefits that are often desperately needed throughout the year. That amount certainly could make a one-time difference in an individual's financial life, but the long-term sustainability that programs like SSI assist with can't be remedied with such a low amount. And because Medicaid eligibility also depends on SSI qualifications, recipients can also lose health care coverage after working for more hours or saving money for retirement. So I absolutely agree with him. $2,000 for individuals and $3,000 for couples. That needs to be updated. And once again, that is in the form of a bill. It's in the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act. We can see here that Wyden, Brown, and Cassidy announced first bipartisan bicameral bill in decades to update the Supplemental Security Income Program. This is just common sense. Not sure why it hasn't passed yet. But they say here that the current SSI program punishes disabled and elderly Americans for working, saving for the future, and getting married. Right now, individuals receiving SSI benefits are limited to $2,000 in assets. For married couples, it's $3,000, so it's not even double for married couples. Just doesn't make any sense there. Why it would be $2,000 for one person, but only $3,000 for two people? Doesn't make any sense there. And they say, of course, the average monthly benefit is $585 for individuals. It's a little bit over $900 for the max. And what they want to do is they want to lift that up to $10,000 for individuals and $20,000 for couples, and actually attach that to inflation moving forward. That way, 40, 50 years later, it still wouldn't be $10,000 and $20,000, which at that point, inflation would erode away pretty well. So leave your thoughts and comments below. What do you think about this bill? Do you believe that it should pass? I think that it should, but we're going to go ahead and move on to the next story here. Of course, the most recent cost of living adjustment increase was welcomed, of course. Any increase is welcome, but most people who receive that increase is saying that it's not keeping up with inflation, and therefore was a pretty big disappointment. So according to Newsweek, Social Security increase disappoints seniors, so that in 2024, the adjustment or COLA was determined at 3.2%, substantially lower than the increase last year of nearly 9%. COLA first came into practice in 1975 to incorporate the effects of inflationary pressures on retiree benefits. It adjusts based on the rate of inflation. Retirees, however, told surveyors this year that this year's increase failed to sufficiently meet their needs. 36% said it was completely insufficient, while an additional 27% said it was somewhat insufficient. Of those who think the payment increases were not enough, more than half said they are considering getting a job, as Social Security does not provide enough income to support their lifestyle. And we have a quote here. It says, "The problem is that the inflation is often based on a big basket of goods and services that don't necessarily align with how most retirees spend their money. For example, the COLA was 3.2% in 2024, but Medicare premiums went up almost 6% or higher." And that's absolutely true there. We have Medicare costs. That's what most seniors usually spend their money on. Healthcare costs and things like that. They're not spending their money on the same things that, say like an 18-year-old or a 25-year-old or even a 40-year-old is going to spend their money on. There needs to be a different inflationary measure for someone who is receiving Social Security benefits, someone who is 65 or older versus, someone who is just like 20 years old. I mean, obviously they're going to spend their money a good bit differently. So again, people aren't too happy with the cost of living adjustment that they received. And a lot of people have already returned to work because the benefits that they are receiving are just not enough to keep up with inflation, or perhaps because they weren't enough to keep up with inflation, they had to dive into their savings, they had to dive into their 401ks, their traditional or Roth IRAs or other savings or retirement accounts, and those are completely depleted now. So now they are forced to go back to work to supplement their Social Security. But that's all I have for today's video. I certainly hope you enjoyed and found value out of it. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.